welcome to Marriage Matters. I'm Dr. Mark.
And I'm Liz, and we're your marriage and communication experts, here to help you be inspired, instill hope, and empower you to weather the challenges of married life.
You know, today we're going to be spending the show together just with you. We'd like to bring some intermittent pieces of coaching and ideas that are tips, techniques, strategies to help you that you can immediately put into your life. We've been living with so much stress over the past several months, endless hours of being confined in close quarters. Not only the stress outside, but of homeschooling children, of worrying about our health, our relatives. It's really been quite an unprecedented and prolonged period of time.
We've heard that word, unprecedented, a lot. So what Mark and I do when we're working with our couples is we really try and help our couples to communicate better. Communication is the key to any successful relationship. We know that, whether it's a business partner or your partner at home. And as Mark said, it's been a really stressful time. And I think a lot of people have also different opinions about what's going on. And some people are a little bit more worried about getting sick. Some people have relatives that they can't see. And it puts a lot of stress on families. And when a married couple is trying to keep their household together and try and sort of manage what's going on inside their home, it can be it not only can be stressful, but it can really get in the way of them communicating effectively.
And part of the reason that it adds to trouble in communicating is because when we're really stressed, our fuse gets a little shorter. Mm-hmm. And then we tend to either not listen, or we tend to be involved in our own problems, our own thoughts, and we don't listen. Or I'm more of the issue than you are, so pay attention to me. And then we start to snap at each other. And that's really not very helpful. And it eventually starts to wear away at even something as basic, but as critically important as trust. And that's why learning to communicate well, particularly under stress, is so important. And Liz and I have come up with our approach that are 4 simple key steps.
Yes, we have a program that we use with our clients, and we call it C.A.L.M. And C.A.L.M. stands for, it's an acronym, and it stands for centering, awareness of self and others, limiting judgment, and managing expectations. So we wanted to just run through it a little bit today with you to hopefully give you some tips that you can use right out of the gate at home today, tonight, with your partner, with your kids, with your family and friends. It's a wonderful communication tool. So here we go.
One of the most important things, and we learn this fairly early when we're trying to learn how to walk, is to be centered, is to be balanced. Otherwise, we fall over. And the fact is, even in life, we can fall over, we can trip, we can stumble. So what is being centered? Centered is literally finding your center, finding that point in which you are most balanced, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. And it sounds like that's a lofty type of approach, but it's really fairly straightforward and simple. And while there's a number of different ways, we teach one that's called the 4-7-8 centered breathing technique. So we just like to go through that with you. And when we coach our clients, we actually go through and we do this each step, or first step, I should say, of most every call. So centered breathing, the first thing is to sit comfortably, be relaxed. Kitchen chair, floor, sofa, wherever it happens to be, sit where you're relaxed. Relax your hands, and then we're going to start by taking a breath in through the nose. The nose has been referred to as the remote control for the brain, and there's a reason for that. So as we start to take that deep breath in, we breathe in for 4 slow seconds, and we inhale all the way into our stomach, pushing our stomach out and feeling our lungs fully expand. We hold that breath for a count of 7 seconds, and then we slowly exhale through pursed lips like blowing out a birthday candle, but for a total of 8 seconds. And then we pause and we restart. And you do that 3 times. If you do it slowly, a lot of people worry that they will get lightheaded or pass out because they're hyperventilating. But actually, if you do it that technique, you actually will not pass out. You're not going to get lightheaded. And what you'll notice is a feeling of calm. As a matter of fact, we have people who have told us the benefits of that.
Yeah, I was going to jump in and say a couple years ago, my husband was stressing out. He had a blood blood pressure cuff on his arm, and I saw him in our bedroom, and I said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "My blood pressure is really high. I keep taking my blood pressure, and I'm nervous." I said, "Okay, take it off, and let's do these 3 deep breaths." And the beautiful thing about the 3 deep breaths is that it takes about 1 minute and 20 seconds. So there's nothing you can't do for 1 minute and 20 seconds. So I had him do the 3 deep breaths, and in 1 minute and 20 seconds, his blood pressure went down 15 points. So, this really works. And Mark can tell you from a doctor's perspective the importance of the slow, deep breathing, but I witnessed it with him, and it's just unbelievable just how it just took that edge off. It just calmed him down, so his blood pressure was able to drop to where it should have been.
The blood pressure drops. The other thing is heart rate will drop. Cortisol, that stress hormone, adrenaline will start to fall. And you will immediately start to feel this calming. You'll feel this sense of calm or peace. Another really important aspect is that it actually allows us to think differently. It gives us the ability to step back and to not react, but to respond. So why is that? Well, let me just put my doctor hat on for a brief moment. And there's 3 large parts of the brain. We're not going to go into brain neuroanatomy, but there's the reptilian brain, the bottom part of our brain that keeps our heart beating, our blood pressure right, our body temperature right, all those things. Then there's the top part of the brain that we think about when we think of the brain, the part with all the folds, the gyri and sulci they're called. And that part of the brain is called the neocortex. Well, the cool thing about the neocortex is the humans have a really developed one. So we can do calculus. We can design an airplane. We can put a man on the moon or a man or woman up onto the space station. We can put a bathysphere down to the depths of the ocean. We have the ability to do incredible things. But that part of the brain is not the only part. And a very powerful part is the emotional part called the limbic system. The problem with the limbic system is it has no capacity for human language. It doesn't talk. When you say, well, my gut tells me, or my heart tells me, or my intuition tells me, that's your limbic system talking to you. Very important and powerful. Now, when we get stressed, the blood flow decreases a little bit to the top part of the brain. You can't really do calculus or do high-level physics when you're really stressed. Our brain doesn't work that way. But the parts of the brain that do, or that limbic system, doesn't have capacity for language. It's emotional. That's why in that period of stress we get emotional and we react. And we don't think about the right way to handle something or come up with good solutions.
Well, and the reason we're spending so much time on this is because centering is the foundation of being able to get people to communicate better. Because if you can calm yourself down, and trust me when I tell you, I practice this in my own home. I did it yesterday at work. The beautiful thing about this type of breathing is you can do it anywhere, and you can pull it out of your back pocket when you need it in a critical moment, when you know that you're about to escalate and get into a high conflict situation with maybe one of your children or your husband or your wife. Or you can do it, and we recommend this, practicing it all different times. You could do it when you're in traffic, or when you're in a long line in the grocery store, or pick the wrong line in the grocery store, which often happens to me. And when you start to practice it several times throughout the day, it becomes second nature. Yes. And it is honestly, it's very soothing to know that you have this in your back pocket. So Mark and I start our calm with obviously centering, because we need for you to understand that if you can come from a place of calm, centered breathing, you are in a place of control. You are in a place where you're thinking more clearly, and you can approach whatever it is you're working on with your partner, whether it's a difficult conversation around finances, children, whatever it may be, and then you can move forward. So,
the thing is that this leads into everything else, because you can pull it out of your pocket, you can quickly do it, and now you walked in from work, you walked in from outside, and you say something, and your spouse, whether it's the man or the woman in the relationship, doesn't matter, your spouse just bites your head off. Take your breaths, and then we come to the A of calm, awareness of self and others. What is it that is happening to me through my day? Did my day start off well? Did it start off poorly? Did I get yelled at work? Did I get a promotion? Am I about to be fired? Did the kids just do this? What are the things that are my baggage I'm bringing into the conversation? And then what is it that, my partners, my spouse had in her or his day? And what are they bringing in?
So Mark and I work with a couple who, they were having a lot of difficulty with just doing dishes. And it seems like doing dishes should be a very simple thing. Who was going to get the dishes done? Who was going to clean them? But for them, it would come up pretty much, comes up a lot in our coaching calls. And what we finally learned was it's the wife is the one who's having issues with her husband not getting the dishes done. Well, we learned that the husband actually has some ADHD. And with his ADHD, there are certain times of day, in particular as the day goes on and medication wears off, he gets a little bit more scattered. So he wasn't getting the dishes done after dinner because it was already a time in the day where he was scattered, his brain was going in all different directions. Well, she didn't really understand that. She just looked at it like, this is a simple task, and she felt that he was underappreciating her and really didn't care about her if he couldn't get these dishes done. When in reality, it was that his brain was a little bit scattered at that time of day. So what we came up with for them was, what happens if you maybe eat dinner an hour earlier, and then there's a little, or, the dishes can get done earlier, and that approach seemed to work. And it was a simple way to just be aware. She needed to understand, honestly, how his brain worked. And she didn't, because her brain doesn't work like that.
She didn't know, and they didn't talk about it. And without somebody asking the question, who would? So sometimes you come in, and it's hard, because again, reaction is kind of like when the doctor hits your knee with the little hammer and your leg jumps. So we are triggered by something. Our button is pushed. But when you're aware of yourself and others, okay, you just said something to me that's out of character. Liz, I'm sorry. I don't understand why you're upset. Tell me about your day. What's going on? Because, I think that we need to just understand each other so that we can come to a place that we can talk. We can come to a field in which we're able to have a discussion, because I've got some things that are, that have irritated me all day, and I don't want to dump them on you because they're not yours. But we should talk about them. I see that you have some things because you just responded or reacted in a way that isn't just you. So let's talk.
Well, that's key. What you just said right there is, we're trying to help you learn the skills to respond instead of react. Because when we're in a situation and when we're reacting, we're not thinking clearly. So again, you walk in the door, take those breaths, and start being aware of what surrounds you in your room and the mood that's going on before you start to have those conversations.
And try to be proactive about it so that you can choose well and you can control how your brain thinks. We're going to take a break for some commercials. We'll be back in just a couple of moments. Stay with us for the next 2 steps of C.A.L.M.
Ashley Owens. I am your personal networking concierge, and I host a show on RVN TV called Connect to Success, where I interview power networkers in the greater Philadelphia and South Jersey area. So join me every week, 12:30 on Thursdays during your lunch break, and now on Fridays at 9 and 9:30 p.m. We'll see you next week.
Hi, and welcome back to Marriage Matters.
We started this conversation today with you going over our process of C.A.L.M, or the 4 key steps to remaining calm in a stressful environment and being able to communicate with those that are most important in our lives. We're going to go to the 3rd step now, which is the L in C.A.L.M, and it stands for limiting judgment. As humans, we judge everything. But we judge ourselves worst of all. We put a lot of judgment. And a lot of it comes from the fact that somewhere back in our history, back in our own life, we experienced something and we felt bad, we felt judged. Now, instead of having empathy, which would be a great thing to have, We protect ourselves and the pain that we had, and we turn around and we judge. We judge those outside. And that always separates people instead of bringing them together.
Well, let's be clear, we're talking about negative judgment, because there are
That's true.
positive judgments as well. But in order for us to help you in challenging times, right now we're talking about negative judgment, which is, again, something called also our head trash. We have 87% of our thoughts all day long are negative thoughts. And
Oh, and by the way, about 90,000 thoughts that are negative are running through our head every single day. So that's a lot of thoughts. So, you know,
and then we carry them on from each day to the next day to the next day to the
That's
next
right.
day. So when we try to talk to you about limiting judgment, we're talking about really understanding where your partner's coming from, rather than when you're in an argument with your partner, thinking about it like, here they go again. Now they're going into victim role, then they're gonna go to anger role, and then they go to this position, and I know what's coming next. That's judgment. How about if you were in let's call it a potentially heated argument, changing it around into a discussion by just limiting your judgment and by thinking, wait a minute, why are they upset? Why did they maybe, feel like somebody wronged them? Or why do they feel like you're wronging them? This is so important in any type of communication, is to understand where your partner's coming from and to not have any judgment around it. It's how they feel. It's the way they think.
And there's lots of different judgments, and they cause reactions. They typically push our buttons or pull our triggers. And we had a client who lives in New York, as one example, and they were going out to a bodega one evening, and the gentleman was pulling up and was about to drop his wife off, and he saw a couple of people coming out of the shadows. He didn't know who they were. He just knew he didn't understand. They were coming out of the shadows, and he wanted to have his wife be safe. And he yelled at her to stay in the car, and that initial yell was something that she misunderstood and she judged. And then he came out with an expletive because she still continued to try to get out of the car, and that infuriated her. Now, his reasoning was to try to keep her safe and to let her know, but she didn't understand that, and she didn't understand why. So they got into quite a heated tussle and needed to have an extra, time talking with us, and we worked through that with him. The fact is that it was a few weeks later. They were going out to another bodega to get some ice cream, and she was the only one who walked in, and some other people that looked a little unsavory had walked in after.
By the way, they tend to go get their ice cream at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So
Exactly.
that's why some of this is happening.
That is true. The facts are important there.
Yeah.
But he basically texted her and just says, "Get out." And she listened because she understood what it was coming from. She didn't judge. She didn't try to ask questions. She understood that he was interested in her safety, however it was real or perceived. And don't forget, perception is reality, and that's where we live.
And and compassion, to be compassionate. Compassion is the opposite of judgment. And we spend so much time in these negative spaces. How about being more compassionate? Think about it again. Let's go where we started this whole show. We're all living through some really challenging times. There isn't anybody who's not affected by what's going on right now. So let's try to have a little bit of compassion for each other and understand that maybe what isn't stressing us might be stressing our partner, or vice versa. And if we could just approach things with a little bit more kindness and understanding and compassion, what a better situation we could create inside our four walls, where most of us are spending a lot of time these
what
days.
we do over and over on a daily basis is actually sort of who we become. And we're in an environment now that there is so much judging. Do they have a mask? Do they not have a mask? Is the mask too low or too high? The right type? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Are you here? Are you there? There is so much judgment everywhere, and it becomes what we're dealing with. And that adds to the stress. But it also sort of sets us up to be more judgmental. Mm-hmm. So we just ask that you start to be mindful of when and why you're judging. Is there a reason? Does it really need to be? I love the state of Maine. I love Maine, but there's a lot of routes to Maine. If I want to go one drive and you want to go the other, we'll still meet in the state of Maine and we'll have fun. I don't have to judge how you're going to get there. The question's the outcome. So we then have an expectation of our outcome. So what is the last part? The M is managing our expectations.
Which honestly, we cannot say enough. Put an exclamation point after it 3 times, because most difficulties in any relationship come around managing, or lack thereof, managing expectations. We all have expectations, and having expectations is not a bad thing, unless your expectations of your partner are unknown to your partner.
Now, by the way, setting goals and having something that you want to achieve, a finish line you want to get across, or having a goal of doing that race in a certain amount of time or a certain amount of a style, those are okay, but that's not really an expectation. Those are truly goals, and you set goals, and that's how we move forward. An expectation is something that may not necessarily be real. And you see, when our expectations don't meet reality, in a sense, we set ourselves up for what's called cognitive dissonance. Our belief here and the reality over here, and they don't match, and therefore we're very upset. We feel upset inside, it manifests outside, it manifests in our relationship.
So it's almost like you plan a vacation, and you get on the airplane, and you're getting ready to go to Italy, and you fall asleep on the plane, and when you wake up, the pilot says, "Welcome to Iceland." Now, while Iceland is beautiful, and a lot of people, have been there and have wonderful trips there, and apparently beautiful auroras, you didn't plan to go to Iceland. So your hotel's in Italy, not in Iceland. All your clothes that you packed are for Italy, not for Iceland. But here now you are in Iceland.
In the reality of Iceland, not in the expected location of Italy. And you have to deal with it. So those things do happen in life, and we have to adapt and overcome. But it's interesting about expectations, because we set expectations on our partner, we set expectations on others, but certainly of our spouse, that we would never set for ourselves. And therein lies one of the problems as well. We want to apply a different standard to those special people in our life, and we don't allow them to be the only way that they can be perfect, which is to be imperfect.
So this is where also awareness of self and others comes in, because part of managing expectations, you also have to understand your partner and what their needs are. So one of the couples that we're working with, they have multiple grandchildren, and the wife loves going and visiting the grandchildren on the weekend. She has a blast doing it. And she's very happy doing things spontaneously. So last minute things, and she's always wanted to get her husband and let's get in the car and we'll drive down to see the kids. Well, the husband doesn't really like that. He doesn't like spontaneity. He likes quiet time. He likes time to himself. He likes to make plans. He wants to know what's coming. And so one weekend she said, "Let's do this. Let's just go." And he went with it. By the end of the weekend, he was miserable because he had all of the expectations that he had during the week of what he wanted his weekend to look like completely went out the window. And when I say they have grandchildren, they have littles, so they're little kids running around all weekend. He had no free time, no downtime, and they ended up exploding on her at the end of the weekend.
These expectations, what they really do is they don't really help us. They increase the stress. They increase the judgment. We have more than enough stress for everybody. The fact is that the world gives us stress. The environment gives us stress. The politics gives us stress. We have stress. Our jobs give it to us. Why would we look to magnify that by adding more stress? Find the way to approach calm so that you have the opportunity to step back, to deepen the connection instead of building walls, to be able to have the ability to support each other. You are better together than you ever will be apart.
Your marriage is the most important relationship that you have. And if your marriage is doing well, then everything else sort of falls into place. Even if there's stresses that we're talking about, those stresses are always going to be there. But if you have that alignment and support with your partner, it is going to compound with everything else, your kids, your job, your family, your friends. So we created this program because it works. We know what's happening when our clients aren't communicating. We know what happens in marriages. Marriages fall apart when marriages don't have strong communication. So understanding just these 4 key steps to help you communicate better with your partner, and again, pull them out of your back pocket whenever you can. You don't have to, it's not some big, thing that you have to study. It's just a little bit of practice, and it all starts with the centered breathing and then being aware of your partner and really who they are.
And who you are
and
in
who
that
you are,
conversation.
how you show up in your relationship, absolutely. And then trying to limit that judgment. And as Mark said earlier, because this is so important, to catch yourself. We don't catch ourselves enough when we're judging. And we were, when Mark and I were training to be coaches, one of the most important things that they taught us was to catch yourself judging. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be so easy. I don't judge. And within 1 minute, I caught myself judging. And I was really shocked that about how fast that was. So try to catch yourself. Just do yourself the favor and just try. Try to see how often you do it and why you do it and with whom you do it.
All this comes down, and you're going to hear this over and over as we interview experts, as we talk with you. We'd like to say this is ours, but to be honest, the person who put the phrase together was Oprah Winfrey, and she's so right. Every human wants the same 3 things. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, and they want to be understood. Those 3 things, seen, heard, and understood. When you are calm, when you approach your partner with calm, aware of who you are at that moment and why you're that way, aware of your spouse or your significant other and why they're that way. When you start to limit your judgment of them and of yourself, and as you manage the expectations, you'll be in a place that each of you will feel seen, heard, understood. You'll be acknowledged for who you are, you'll be validated because you're there, and therefore you will build a deeper, stronger, more loving, more resilient connection. Because you're going to be approaching each other wanting to hear, wanting to listen, wanting to understand the person that you have chosen to go through life with.
And it doesn't have to be, if you're in a situation where you feel that your partner wouldn't be open to trying to learn about it, it actually does work even if just one partner does it. And it works in any marriage. It works with kids. I've used it on my own kids. I've used it with my husband. I've used it with Mark. It's something that you can use in every aspect of your life. So if you approach a situation that normally in the past could be something that would escalate, and you step in, having done your centered breaths or doing them right in the moment, you can actually be doing your centered breathing when your partner is going at you. And you can calm yourself down in that moment to think more clearly so that you can respond in that moment. They will automatically start to calm down because it's almost a disruption when you come at something from a place of clarity and confidence and strength. And that's what centering is. That's what this C.A.L.M program is.
Well, one more brief story. Your older son was very upset at something and was amping up, and you were just calm and easy in the moment. And
I just started breathing.
Yeah. And what are you doing? How come you're not getting upset? How come we're doing this? So, it works, it's simple.
Well, he did say what's going on, and what was going on was I disrupted the situation and it stopped him.
Yeah.
So yes, so I didn't mean to interrupt you when I said that, but we hope that you guys get something out of this. This is important for you, for your relationship. It works incredibly well in our coaching, it's impactful, and we just wanted to give it to you.
So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your interest. Please let other people know so that they have the opportunity to learn these same tips and strategies. We'll see you next week. You can get in touch with us at marriagemattershosts@gmail.com, or you can call our number or visit our website at twinlightscoaching.com. We love to hear feedback on the show. You may want to be a guest, or you may want a topic covered that we're happy to cover. So please email us. Let us know. We look forward to the next time.
Bye.
Have a great day.